Kia ora, welcome to this episode of The Amateur Austenite. I am Frances Duncan, author, Austenite life coach. My lovely special guest co-host today is Dr. Alice Nagel of the Austen After Dark podcast, a history, sex, comedy podcast that asks the vitally important question, what are Austen's characters like in bed? Welcome, Alice.
Hello, I'm so happy to be here.
I am so excited you agreed to do this with me. For all listeners, just so you know, this is actually the second time we've recorded this because I messed it up the first time. Alice and her husband very kindly agreed to do this again and fix everything for me. So thank you.
I had a really good excuse to come back to New Zealand.
As you want to, because we're heading into summer, well, it's still very spring.
Yeah.
And you're going towards winter, so better place to be.
It's all fun and autumnal soups until the rains hit, and then it's not fun anymore.
And it actually snows where you are too, right?
We live in Edinburgh, so it doesn't snow very much, but it's a lot of just freezing rain and sleet.
Does not sound like a good time.
We love it.
Today we are discussing the sexy bits in Emma by Jane Austen. You've already covered this on your podcast. I very much agree with your assessment of Emma Woodhouse as a chaotic bisexual.
That was probably the biggest thing that we talked about on our podcast, Austen After Dark. It's funny, isn't it? Like, you can't really determine the gender nonconformity or like minority sexual identities of people in Austen novels or like literature from this kind of era. It's not really realistic because they don't have the same language. We don't have the same kind of clues that we could use for modern day characters. So we tried to avoid that a little bit. We did do a bit of speculation, especially about Tom Bertram in Mansfield Park.
Oh, Tom and Yates. Ooh, yes.
Tom Yates, I will ship that and die on that hill. I will die on that ship.
The theatre aspect just makes it almost certain, right?
I mean, neither of them wanted to hook up with any of the other girls. They were really just in it either for the love of the theatre or for each other. But sorry, all that to say, so we try not to identify characters as gay or trans or anything like that. But sometimes things jump out at you as a possibility. For example, there's been talk of Charlotte Lucas or even Emma herself being asexual or aromantic.
Agree.
One thing that I discovered along the journey of talking about Jane Austen characters fucking is that there is this particular kind of character that is so bisexual and so unself-aware that it just wreaks havoc on every other character, specifically because they are feeding off of this horny energy from people of both genders just all around them. We call that a chaotic bisexual, and Emma Woodhouse, I think, is the foremost premier chaotic bisexual in the Austen oeuvre.
We know she has a thing for Knightley. Doesn't turn up till right at the end that she understands that. Kinda has a thing for Frank. That's your males covered. She definitely has a thing for Harriet.
I mean, that she's broadcasting all over the place. Like, blam, blam, blam. Harriet's my best friend. Harriet and I are having a sleepover. And why would anyone not want to marry Harriet? Look at her supple lips. Look at her skin. Look at the curve of her bosom.
That lovely décolletage. Who wouldn't want to motorboat that? You're rubbing off on me.
Where's the décolletage? Is that the butt?
Cleavage. Cleavage.
You're making a bosom
Cleavage.
kind of... Okay.
Motorboat cleavage.
That could be the butt.
The thing that I discovered this reading as I was doing the podcast with Rachel that I've not noticed before is that Emma is obsessed with Jane Fairfax. I swear to God, Jane Fairfax gets the most physical description of a character in all of Austen, and it's all from Emma's perspective.
I noticed this because in order to do the podcast, I read all of the books like in quick succession, one after another. When you do that kind of thing, it really does stand out. She goes into physical descriptions. Yes, she does physically describe people quite well. But from specifically, it sounds like from Emma's perspective, rather than Jane Austen's perspective, just giving the reader information about this character. this is how tall she was. This is what her hair and eyes were like. She's describing the beauty of them, the uniqueness of them, the perfection of them, not too slim or too fat, not too tall or too short. Like the grayness of her eyes has this like longing to the description.
A style of beauty that Emma was particularly fond of. Emma, you really dislike Jane. That's what this is. It's not at all that you're trying to cover up a giant crush.
And people do point out that a lot of it is built on jealousy. And that's how I first read it. Oh, she hates her because she's jealous of her. She's accomplished and she actually is thoughtful and puts her mind to things and has these womanly qualities like, keeping your mouth shut that people liked at the time. The two aren't opposing viewpoints.
Does she want to be with her? Does she want to be her? Is it both?
Maybe lesbians can speak to this a bit better. So I'm bisexual, and am I chaotic bisexual? I hope not anymore, but certainly was for several decades. I can understand that when you see something in someone, it turns from admiration into a kind of self-consciousness. Like, why don't I have any of those things? And you're like, if I could just be with you, I could maybe like consume you, and then we would be one as a couple. And people would think that I am awesome because of how awesome you are. And also kissing.
I'm not sure if I was ever a chaotic bisexual. Rachel and I also both bi and ace. Considering who I am, yes. Considering who she is, yes. So probably yes. We're probably also both chaotic bisexuals.
Women of our kind of age and generation, we have discovered now that we are both olds, even though we look 25, the two of us.
Whereas Rachel is closer to 25.
And she looks 80.
Just kidding. Gonna tell her you said that.
No, Rachel, you're gorgeous. I love your Instagram. I mean, not to go on too much of a tangent, but I think people of our age and generation, like if you're anything other than a cis straight woman, there was chaos. There was chaos brewing around you, unless you were somehow incredibly mature and self-aware.
I'm very self-aware, probably less mature than ever because I don't give a fuck anymore.
Yeah, you can't. Once you hit 40, it's just like a gate opens and your fucks flee.
It's a fantastic time of life. If anyone's worried about turning 40, don't. It's so good. So Rachel and I came to the conclusion that we should just get rid of Frank Churchill, that Knightley, Emma and Jane should be a throuple.
Ooh, that's interesting. So we know that Knightley admires Jane Fairfax. We know that he thinks very highly of her, but that also might be, sexually speaking, like if we're talking about a throuple situation, that might be a hindrance. Because I think one of the things that makes Knightley most horny about Emma is her brattiness. He's a brat daddy.
Yes.
Like, he loves a brat.
Mm-hmm.
It's clear to me that every time he scolds Emma, he just wants to be spanking her. And every time she kind of claps back at him, she's saying like, yes, spank me, daddy.
They totally have power play in their relationship. We can imagine that carrying over to the bedroom. And potentially at some point, Emma might be like, but no, I get to be the boss this time.
Oh yeah, I think quite early, actually, because Emma is used to being the boss of everywhere. It's practically traumatic for her when she doesn't get to open one single ball. And that doesn't last for very long, thankfully, because by the end of the book, she's back in like the situation in society, in local society, where she'll be opening all of the balls from now on forever because she's married to the richest guy in town. But she has to be in charge. She has to take control of everything, and she has to especially tell the men's what to do. She's used to managing her own father in a very different way. She's used to already managing Knightley, I think.
Is that why it has man at the start of managing? Because it's women having to look after men?
Yeah, so a woman invented the word, and it was specifically meant to mean wrangling men and their silly feelings.
Fair.
I'm not saying it'll take a week, but maybe 2 weeks. She's like, no, I'm going to be spanking now. You can do the verbal spanking in public, and then in the bedroom, it's all different.
Oh my god, that would be such great foreplay. Like we're out in public and doing stuff to annoy you, so you tell me off, and then we'll get back to the bedroom later and we will switch roles. Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I
I think
think
so.
that has to be like the bread and butter of their sexual relationship, at
Mm.
least until they have their first kid.
But if we put Jane Fairfax in the mix, it kind of doesn't work because she would not be in for any of that.
Well, it's interesting because we know Jane Fairfax is horny.
Oh yeah, she and Frank. Woo!
Right. So we know that she's really attracted to Frank and there's loads of sexual tension. There's that scene. Emma almost walks in on them having some kind of smoochy time when she's staying with her aunt and grandmother and Frank is visiting them. Grandma falls asleep by the fire. They're like, yeah, this is it. This is our chance. We're taking it. And we don't care that there's an elderly woman in the room. Let's rub on each other. And then Emma shows up like 20 minutes early and ruins it. If Jane Fairfax is willing to take that kind of risk, she's obviously hot enough for Frank that it was worth it.
Because it was so against her morals to even have a secret engagement, so she must have been really hot for
Yeah.
him.
Although I'm hoping for her that the secrecy of it all wasn't just stressful, but also arousing. But you're right that she is a more modest, reserved creature. And so in a throuple, there has to be a balance, there has to be a harmonious dynamic. And I'm just wondering if she would fit into that well with Knightley and Emma, or if there would be too much competition.
I also wonder though if because she's so moral and good in public, whether that actually translates to her being a dirty, dirty girl in the bedroom. You know how some people are?
We didn't take a very optimistic view of her sex life with Frank.
Oh yeah, I think Frank is selfish.
Yeah.
Once Jane potentially gets over the horniness of it all, she might be like, ah. But she's a lady, she can probably do without the sex.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, it's a shame because she's in her prime, she's a young woman and nobody deserves a Frank Churchill in bed. Doesn't seem like the kind of person who is good in bed. He's selfish, as you said. He does not go down. He's the kind of bro who doesn't really believe in the female orgasm.
Oh, yeah.
Like, he's not heard of that. He's pretty sure that that's a weird myth that he read about one time.
Compare Frank Churchill to Robert Martin.
Oh,
Both really in love with the person that they marry, whereas Robert's got so much more respect for Harriet than Frank does for Jane. And I think Robert would worship Harriet, do everything for her. But once Frank's kind of secured Jane and married her, I think he'd be like, ah, whatever.
I would hope that he would at least be a good husband to her, be a dutiful husband, that kind of thing. But in terms of feeling like it's his duty to make sure that she's getting off, Robert Martin went and got Harriet walnuts. He brung her nuts.
You did that on purpose, didn't you?
Yeah.
But even when they're in an awkward situation in their relationship and she's rejected him, he goes to her and says, look, you want to walk this other way so you're not going to get flooded out. And that shows actual consideration for her as a person. He really cares about her as a person, even if they can't be together. He wants her to be happy and well. Whereas Frank, while in a relationship with Jane, is over flirting with Emma because a little bit would have been enough.
Robert Martin is younger than Frank, isn't he?
I think only just.
Or yeah, the same age? You think are they both about 23, early mid 20s?
Yeah.
Robert is so much more mature. He's sweet. Frank is charming, but you're right, he's doing too much. He's petty. When Jane gets frustrated with him, it's not the same as rejecting a proposal the way Harriet rejected Robert's proposal. But there is that time when Jane gets really fed up. Jane Fairfax is like, blah, I can't do this. I'm so hot. I hate picking strawberries. And she kind of runs home. And Frank throws such a little hissy fit about it. he doesn't have the run of himself the way that Robert Martin does. And the way that someone behaves in public and behaves toward their partner is going to translate into the bedroom in some way. So if you're selfish and you throw a strop, then you're not going to be a very attentive and generous partner. And likewise, if you're the kind of dude who's going to go up to your ex and say, look, that road is flooded, it's all good, just don't want you to get your shoes wet, then you are going to be giving your lady a good time.
Yeah, you could imagine Frank being the sort that would throw a hissy fit if Jane wasn't in the mood, and he was.
He would have a notion in his head about his rights as a husband.
Gross.
Yeah.
Whereas Robert would very much care about Harriet's consent. Are you comfortable? Do you want this? What more can I do for you?
Robert Martin is all about consent.
We were talking about the difference in maturity levels between Frank and Knightley in the podcast, and I wonder if it's the same thing that comes to it when it's Robert and Frank. Robert is an actual adult now because he's running his farm and he's running his household. Frank is still not doing that, and maybe that's part of the reason he hasn't matured, because that's still the thing with men these days. They say men don't mature until they have to, until they meet someone who expects them to stand up and be an adult, or they have to run a house. And maybe the fact that Frank is still under his aunt and uncle and isn't standing on his own 2 feet, doesn't have his own money, doesn't have his own house, might be part of the reason. But I mean, you still don't have to be a dick about it.
That's very true. Although it does open the door for something a bit more optimistic for their marriage. So he didn't have to stand up to his aunt. His aunt died very conveniently for him. But then that means he has come into his house and his money and his own now. So once he is the man of the house, who knows? Maybe he'll start wearing a taller hat.
Does that make his dick longer too?
I can imagine Frank having a big dick and that actually being a detriment to Jane.
Because guys don't think they need to learn how to do anything because they've got the appendage.
Yeah, and he's not making sure that she's ready for anything.
Ooh.
He's just like, you're obviously so hot for me, and this hole was made for my dick, so
gross.
What's the problem?
No. Yeah, that makes me feel sick. Gross.
I'm so sorry. But no, I was trying to say something happy. I was trying to say that maybe he's going to mature. He's going to mature. He's going to put on his big boy hat.
Frank's uncle's still around, but I could see Jane and Frank's uncle getting on well and managing Frank together.
Yeah, and Frank, maybe that will teach him to stand up to people a little bit more. His uncle is supposed to be more of a pushover, right? So he'll get that kind of practice in asserting his manhood.
Maybe. I'm not sure if you like Taylor Swift, but have you heard Wood?
I'm kind of a blank when it comes to Taylor Swift after the song Bad Blood.
Do yourself a favour, when we're done here, go and listen to Wood on Life of a Showgirl. I won't spoil it for you.
That's a song, and Life of a Showgirl is an album.
Also, potentially Father Figure. So, Father Figure, Wood.
Okay, cool.
So think Mr. Knightley, Father Figure, Wood, right? Listen, and then tell me what you think. When we initially recorded this episode, which I fucked up, you were saying how you thought that Mrs. Elton would probably dominate Mr. Elton. I actually think that because they're both so proud and up themselves, that maybe the way that Mr. and Mrs. Elton have sex is either they're praising each other or they're praising themselves, and that's how they do it.
Maybe it's good that episode got fucked up, because I got a little dark. I went to a dark place with Mr. Elton just because, I don't know, he was making me mad in that moment. But I do think you're right. And we talk about this a little bit in Austen After Dark, that they are, in their public life, a little bit of an echo chamber, the two of them. They really big each other up because they both want to be so inflated in their own kind of minds and their own social standing. They want to be the best, the most fashionable, the most moral, the most do good for the poor and the neighborhood and everybody, and they really want to be role models. So I can't imagine that when they're in bed, there's something similar. They're like, oh man, wasn't that sex the best? Yeah, no one else in Highbury is having sex like that. No way. Nobody at Maple Grove or even in Bath is having sex as good as we do.
Look at us. How good are we? That thing that you did, oh my God. That thing that I did, yes. How great are you?
Yeah.
How great did you look yesterday in that particular dress and your piano and like just all this praise. Like they both probably have a praise king.
Oh, I didn't know that was a thing, but it makes sense.
How I discovered this is there's a whole bunch of guys on like Instagram. It's very cute because they're not being creepy about it, saying in a very deep voice, "You're a good girl." And women are just like,
Oh,
"Thank you." And they just love it. We just want to be told we're good girls.
I mean, I want to be told I'm a festering flag by as many men in a ballroom as possible. So
Okay, different ends of the spectrum.
because I like to hear the truth.
Fair.
No, I can imagine. I'm very happy that that's a thing and that exists. And that seems a lot more wholesome than what we're talking about with the Eltons. But, at least they're not hurting anybody,
No.
except for all the feelings that they're probably hurting.
What? Of each other or outside?
I'm talking about generally, like they're not very good people and they hurt people's feelings. But sexually, I don't feel that they're hurting anybody. I can imagine them having this conversation like, oh, isn't it a shame that we can't talk more openly about sex? Isn't it a shame that you can't preach a sermon about sex so that we could teach everybody how to have sex as well as we do?
Mrs. Elton wants to teach everybody the right way to have a party. So, of course, it would expand to all areas of life. She knows the correct way to do everything.
So I have a question about this for you.
Mm-hmm.
When Mrs. Elton talks about how important it is for a woman to have her own resources, and she prides herself on having really excellent resources, is she talking about masturbation?
No, but you could read it that way.
That's how I read it.
Women are isolated a lot. They stay at home. They don't have anyone to hang out with. Their husband's off working and in whatever way they do work, whether that's seeing parishioners or running the estate. So what have they got to keep themselves occupied? Are they happy being alone in their own head? Can they play the piano or do crayons like she does or do all the stitching that you're supposed to do, which is hours and hours of work? But yeah, you could say there are physical ways to amuse yourself.
I think when she brings that up, she's testing the waters a little bit because she figures that the women of Highbury are not sophisticated enough to know about masturbation. And so she's like planting some seeds. And then when she can become more of a mentor to some of these women, she's going to like explain it to them.
Mrs. Elton's Sex Club for young women.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I could see it. And that could actually be her contribution to society.
But also, you have to do it exactly the way that she does.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, Mrs. Elton wouldn't understand that other people's bodies work differently.
No, she like really rams herself up against like the arm of a chair and doesn't understand that that amount of pressure on a clitoris doesn't work for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah.
So she's just got these women in her drawing room like straddling chair arms, and they're like, is something supposed to be happening?
Well, that's why women ride horses, right? I want to circle back to one of the things we talked about right at the start, because it's quite obviously important to me, about whether Emma could be asexual, aromantic, either, both, because she doesn't seem to understand why people would get married if they had money. She doesn't seem to get the, no, you want to be with somebody, whether that's physically or you just want to be around them all the time. So like romantic or sexual attraction. She doesn't seem to get that.
No, she's like, we have a large acquaintance. People come over all the time, very rarely alone and bored. She gets to a point with Knightley where she has to be with him. If someone is going to be his wife, it has to be her. But it's hard to imagine her actually wanting to just take his clothes off and have that skin-to-skin contact. And like, even if she doesn't understand kind of the active sex and what it all entails, because she's still young and has grown up the way she's grown up, there is that longing, that animalistic longing that maybe it's hard to see in her. So it is very easy to imagine that she is, if it weren't for all of the lusting after Harriet and Jane Fairfax, could she be a lesbian as well?
Possibly.
I feel like there are really good arguments to be made for all of these. But specifically, the idea that she's ace or aromantic, this is something that has been discussed by literary scholars or like people who are fans of Jane Austen for a really good reason. And it could just be people like yourself who recognize themselves in her. And you're like, yeah, Emma, I think I get you. Or because more than any other character, she truly does seem disinterested in a way that's curious.
You look at the other women in the novel, and it's not just like this is how Austen writes, because Jane and Frank desperately wanted each other. Harriet is ready to go for any guy that'll look at her twice. So they definitely have it. So it is a thing that is understood that women have, just not Emma.
Yeah. That's something that's so awesome about her.
So many facets.
As a reader, yeah, there's so many things you could kind of map onto her. The only thing that stops me from really thinking of Emma as a lesbian or ace is this idea that she has been saying "spank me daddy" to Knightley secretly.
Sure.
And that is the future I see for them.
Maybe she was just so sexually satisfied by the flirtation with Knightley that she didn't feel like she needed anything else.
Or maybe she has been wanking in a much more subtle and less violent way than Mrs. Elton for the entire book. Every time she talks about Harriet or Jane,
she would be much more subtle.
She's got a nice cushion.
So Alice, where can people find you?
Well, you can find Austen After Dark on all fine podcast platforms. We are also on Instagram at Austen After Dark. If you want to learn more about our show, we are on the Podomedy Network, so you can find us on podomedy.com. I also am a co-host of another podcast that your listeners might enjoy. It's called Fetch the Smelling Salts, and we talk about all period dramas on movies, TV, miniseries from every era and all around the world. It's also on the Podomedy Network, or you can find us at Fetch Smelling Salts on Instagram.
Thank you so much for your insights today, Alice. This has been such a great time.
Thank you. Oh, yeah, it's been really, really fun. I'm glad we got to do it again. I feel like we talked about completely different things, which is really funny.
And that's been our discussion about the sexy bits in Emma. I've been Frances Duncan. This has been Alice Nagel. Thank you for listening, and we wish you, I'm not going to say happy reading. Do I say good sex?
Sexy reading.
I wish you sexy reading.
And I have a little jam jar of wine.
Nice. It did kind of look like pee. Why did I say that? Look at you, the face of a baby. I was going to say the face of an angel, but
I wouldn't.
No, not the things that come out of your mouth.
Right.